Daniel Penny. So Daniel Penny has been exonerated, I suppose, after the killing of Jordan Neely. What is your response? So now there's been a lot of protests. Like, here's the video of the actual. This is the police. There have been now protests all throughout New York. People very upset that he's been exonerated. He was also, he's been seen since his exoneration partying and having a good time. The details of this story for those.
Look. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's a bad look.
The details of this case is, what's that?
No, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so used to.
No, let me just get. Let me just get to the details of this case for those that are not fully familiar with it. Okay, so Daniel Penny, he back in May 1st of 2023, there was a man on the subway, 30-year-old Jordan Neely. He was a Black homeless man with mental issues. He died after Penny, a white former Marine, placed him in a chokehold on a New York City subway in May of 2023. So the case has, of course, highlighted racial tensions, people pointing out the fact that Neely's Black, Penny's white. It also has brought up mental health and homelessness issues with Neely having mental health problems, being homeless. And then the debate has also sparked about whether or not a person should be able to use this sort of force to the point where the person ended up dead. Some things to know is that though Neely was mentally unstable and causing a ruckus on the subway, yelling and making verbal threats, he had not physically hurt anybody or physically attacked, or there was just no physical threat from him just yet. So that's something also to take in consideration when Daniel Penny put him in the chokehold. So I guess, look, like, racial dynamics aside from my view on this, is that I don't know why you'd put a guy in a chokehold when he hasn't started to do. I mean, the people are going to say, well, do you have to wait for the guy to attack? Like, he didn't have a weapon, I don't think.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You shouldn't. So no, you shouldn't have to wait but if they're coming at you, but I do think you have to wait until there's an actual threat of real force against you or somebody else before you can get in there and take this kind of action. So I'm a little like, had Daniel Penny been convicted, I would have been like, yeah, okay. I mean, you can't use force on somebody until they've actually caused a threat to you. You can't just think they might be a threat. You have to, they need to actually have done something threatening. And I got a lot of moral reasons for thinking that, because that stems not even just this case, but also, like the US government going after people saying, I think you might be a terrorist because of some of the things that you've said. Some of your behavior has been erratic online, Jamal. So, with your erratic behavior online and some of the things you've said, I think you might be a terrorist. And so we're going to start, we're going to take force against you. We're going to imprison you. I just think that you've got to go above and beyond this idea that a person might do something you don't like, or threatening or violent.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, God, man, I have mixed feelings on this case, to be honest. I mean, if somebody is being aggressive, do you really want them to hit you first? Like, do you really want to take that step? Like, I do think there is a such thing as, I agree with you, right? There's a gradient. Me walking by you and you feeling some kind of way because I'm of a particular race or because of a particular height, or you just kind of freaked out, that doesn't give you the right to shoot me, right? So there's levels to that. I think in New York, what they were looking at more than anything else was, okay, well, the guy was being threatening, the guy was being loud, the people felt threatened. And I know somebody could say, okay, well, just because you feel some kind of way doesn't necessarily mean that somebody can respond in with deadly force, of all things. Look, I gave Penny a pass on subduing. I don't give him a pass on killing. There's a difference in those things. Like, at the point where you hold somebody in a chokehold to the point where the person dies, and it's like people were telling you, hey, you're going to kill him. Okay, well, that's a little problematic for me. Like, at the point where you subdued him, then, okay, then you may get a justification for me, okay, well, let's go ahead and kill him. But at the point where you hold somebody in a chokehold to the point where the person dies, and it's like people were telling you, hey, you're going to kill him. Okay, well, that's a little problematic for me. Like, at the point where you subdued him, then, okay, then you may get a justification for me from that point. Okay, you've stopped the threat. You've eliminated the threat that's taking place. Killing him is a different animal. Like that's like the idea that you put somebody in a chokehold long enough for him to like defecate and die, and you're still like holding on to the guy. It's too much. And I know New
Yeah.
Yorkers, like I heard Mayor Adams make this point of saying, I would hope anybody would get involved if somebody was on the subway being threatening and everybody else. Yeah, that's because you
Yeah.
don't have enough cops on your subways. That's because
Right,
your cops
right.
aren't doing their jobs. You don't even have cameras on your
Yeah.
subways. I was talking to Ted Raw, and Ted Raw was pointing out subways are dangerous. He said there's nobody that's been on those subways that haven't necessarily been yelled at, harassed, or threatened. And he even makes the point of saying, like, the ability of cameras, that stuff is not necessarily there. Like, Ted is a lefty, and he was, I mean, even he struggled with this one. And he lives in New York. He goes on the subways every day. He talks about how crime ridden New York is these days, ever since COVID took place. So, you look, he had me at subduing. He gets past. Killing is different. Killing is just
Yeah.
different. It's just stop the threat. You don't have to kill the guy. I mean, like, and so I agree with you, right? That I don't necessarily want to get this passed to anybody that feels some kind of way can do whatever they want. Cops in it, right? They're like, well, he was, his big black arms. I was terrified. Okay, dude, that's I need a bit of a more of a gradient than that. Meaning, I need a more of a threshold than that. And if the people were on the train that felt some kind of way, okay, again, fair enough. I totally get somebody getting involved in order to. It's like, dude, you're threatening these people. Cut it out. Stop.
Yeah.
That part I get. Killing him? Oh, that's different.
There's got to
If I
be,
was on the jury, he would have been convicted.
yeah, there's got to be other ways to subdue people than, kneeling on their necks or choking them,
Yeah.
putting them in chokeholds. I mean, there's got to be another way to do, like, why can't you just why couldn't they just cuff George Floyd, for example? I mean, it's like, I'm not sure why, clearly if you're keeping them in a chokehold or knee on their neck for however long it was, I mean, it's long enough to figure out another way at that point, once they especially go limp, to start, putting cuffs on them, or, and I understand in this situation, he didn't have cuffs. He wasn't a cop. So, that would have been difficult to do, but there was, I think, still other things that could have been done. I don't know. I hesitate on, I agree. I want someone to step in if some bad, I've heard about women being raped on the subway and people just, watching. I mean, but that's a time, had he gone after a rapist who was literally attacking a woman and put him in a chokehold and he died, I would have been like, well, that's what the rapist, you shouldn't have committed a crime. But this guy was just erratic behavior, didn't actually go after anybody yet, but definitely passengers felt very uncomfortable. Passengers felt threatened. But again, that feeling, I don't really like the idea of just giving people carte blanche just because they felt like somebody might be more threatening. Because again, that to me is a slippery slope that could go into a lot of different aspects that I'm not comfortable with.
Totally agree with you on that. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had other items in his past that he did.
Yeah, but this guy didn't know that. But none of those passengers knew that.
Looking at that, the jury may be looking at that as like, okay, he had this stuff in his past that he did, even though he doesn't necessarily know. Penny doesn't necessarily know it. It does show that there's a propensity for violence. Meaning, it might have been enough for them to show a propensity for violence.
Yeah, right.
Enough, to acquit. But I got to be honest, I don't know how they acquit him after, because I agree with you, right? I have serious qualms with this case, like big time. And the celebration after, oh, that looks horrible. That looks so bad.
It doesn't look good.
Keep in mind, this is
just like with the Kyle Rittenhouse one. Like Kyle Rittenhouse, shoots a guy and then he's like celebrated. I just don't think we should be celebrating, this type of. It's one thing for the guy to get to be exonerated and to say, well, I think that was the right thing. There were circumstances and yada yada, but to celebrate, to be in a party, that
feels horrible.
The optics on that is, not good at all.
Protest. Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, I guess I so disagree with Shane on the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I mean, he didn't need to be there. Full stop. At the very least, Penny was just riding the subway. Meaning he was going from point A to point B. Yeah, I agree with you on this. I am. Oh man, celebrating it just feels horrible to me. Even
Celebrating
though I
it is
did it.
my problem with it. Right. It's one thing to
Yeah,
have all of these circumstances and to examine the case and to say, okay, this person shouldn't be convicted. You know, they were defending themselves or they're defending other people or whatever it is. But celebrating it
yeah.
does
I don't
feel,
want a Daredevil or Punisher roaming the
yeah,
subways
yeah,
looking for people
right.
to kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
Yeah, that feels gross to me. Yeah, the community
Next
is
thing you
freaked
know, we're
out.
going to
I
be
mean,
doing the purge here in the United States. It's going to,
I
we're
know.
going to be living in
Look, some
purge
people would agree
culture.
with. Some people would be like, "Yes, that's what we need in America to take get rid of crime."
Well, we're
Some
like
people would be
heading in
for
that
it,
direction.
unfortunately.
Thank you so much for watching. This was just a clip from the longer, larger show that you can catch Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. That'll route you to the platform where you need to be in order to get the full uncensored show every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Click on that link, watch the full interview. See you there.